Enable notifications by ringing the bell.
Mike, have you ever been in a legitimate school lockdown?
No, we had a tornado drill in elementary school one time.
That's it?
It was a practice. There was no tornado. We live in Tennessee.
We had those too. I remember it was around 2000 where they started drilling for like school lockdowns, for like, you know, they originally called it a maniac scenario, in which, you know what that means. You know, maniac is in the building, killing indiscriminately, all that fun stuff. There was one time a school lockdown did happen, and they said that they were going to be drilling for it over the next few months, but they never did. And then one day, they didn't say this was a drill. They wanted to see how we would do. And I'll never forget, as long as I live, we were all sitting in the bed. We were all sitting in the corner, in the back corner, where, you know, you couldn't look into the room and see anything. Anyway, I'll never forget, me and my friend, we were sitting there, and we were just, like, you know, talking real low and everything, so, you know, you could barely hear. The teacher couldn't hear us, and the teacher was, like, I don't know, a few seats away from us. But we were all sitting back there, and me and him were just like, so do you really think anything's going on? No, man, no, nothing's going on. It's just a drill. It's just a drill. I mean, you know that they're doing this just because of Columbine, right? Yeah, I know that. Just back and forth stuff like that. But then all of a sudden, we hear the door. Like, the teacher's supposed to lock the door. Mm-hmm. Teacher walks up, locks the door, you know, and puts a little sleeve on the door things, on the door hinge, so it can't open up. Anyway, someone grabs the door handle and just, like, shakes it, you know, just, like, makes sure the door's locked. And we think to ourselves, okay, that's probably just the principal or the school resource officer coming by. And then all of a sudden, we hear like someone like they hit the door, and we were just like dead silent. No one made a noise. Like, we were just like, because that actually legit scared us. Like, we were all petrified. Like, you know when you're in that scenario and you usually would in a movie, if something like that, you know, jump scare were to happen, you'd like let out a gasp or an exhale or a scream or something. Like, you've seen that in movie theaters, though.
I don't personally make a lot of noise. Yeah,
well, anyway, that, like, the majority of the class was up to, well, in all credit, it was mostly girls in the class, and none of them made a noise. Because usually in horror movie scenario, and like most horror movies I go to, most of the people who let out screams are the girls. The guys, they you know, you'll hear an occasional oh God, like, you know, and they'll have that little euphoric moment where it's like, oh, that got me, that was good. Like, to the credit of the class, nobody made a noise, which was good. Eventually it was over, and we I'll never forget the part of this I'll never forget is the look on my friend's face. My friend had the, like, when he heard the thing, like the slam on the door, like, the look on his face, like, he was legit just like you could see, like, the potential fear in his eyes of, like, what if this is not a joke? What if this is real? And I've had very few scenarios, and thankfully I've had very few scenarios in my life where I've had the thought enter my head that this could get real bad real fast, and I could wind up either getting killed or someone I know will wind up getting hurt really bad. Thankfully, those moments in my life have been very few. You ever had a moment like that where it's just like a scenario you're in, or have you tried your best to avoid scenarios like that?
Well, I mean, sometimes you just can't avoid them, but I mean,
true.
You know, prepare as best as you can. I mean, I've been in a car wreck, but nothing. I mean, so I guess one of us could have gotten hurt there, but nothing like I thought somebody was going to, like, hurt us.
Yeah, I've had a few in my life, but honestly, I'm thankful that I've had as few as I've had, because from what I hear, some people, that's the norm. Like, with them walking down the street just to go to school or go to a convenience store, they're under constant like threat of being robbed or being hassled, or being like in like big cities.
So
In like bigger cities, like metropolitan areas where crime is more rampant. But anyway, we're watching a creepy lockdown. We're watching a Mr. Nightmare animated by Llama Arts. School Lockdown Stories animated. I believe I've seen this one on Mr. Nightmare's channel. I guess we'll have to see what what story it is. But this is Mr. Llama, or Llama Arts. Mr. Nightmare's stories animated. Here we go.
It was a typical boring day in calculus, only it was Friday, 7th period, meaning the week was almost over and spring break would finally be upon us. So everybody was getting antsy in their seats, I could tell.
I don't think I have seen this one.
We didn't have a test that day like a lot of my friends did with their other teachers. So our teacher in the middle of class just decided to start playing games with us on Sporkle.com. He was a very laid-back teacher like that. As we were doing some brand logo quiz on Sporkle, I remember the exact moment it happened. Right after my friend answered a question, I remember the exact answer too, Adidas. The dean's voice came through the loudspeaker. He sounded panicked and frantic as he told all the teachers this was not a drill and to go into lockdown. I actually got the chills, and I got goosebumps on my arms as our usually laid-back teacher too seemed panicked as he ran to turn off the lights and ushered us to the back corner of the room. We all sat in silence for about 2 minutes, and then the usual buzzing that came from a panel in the back of the room ceased, indicating that the school must have cut all the power. We all looked at each other, realizing this must be serious. A few more minutes of waiting later, we heard a man screaming at the top of his lungs coming down the hallway. 2 girls in the class actually started crying, which made all of us even more scared. As the screaming got closer to the classroom, the lunatic-sounding man started banging on the lockers while screaming, "I'll kill all of you." It was at that moment that I started to fear for my life. My teacher shushed us as we all looked at each other to see our peers' reactions. The banging then moved from the lockers to our classroom door. And that's when one of the crying girls screamed no. The banging on the door only grew worse as the man started screaming, "Open up." 2 of the girls in the class were crying out loud now. It felt like an eternity that man was pounding at the door. But eventually, he finally continued down the hallway, screaming like a mentally insane person until we could not hear him anymore. I'd say 10 minutes later, though it felt like half an hour given the situation, the dean came back on the loudspeaker explaining the situation, which was surprising for him to do. He explained that some apparently mentally unstable person entered the building and assaulted the woman sitting at the front desk, causing her to flee the building screaming, and staff wasn't sure if the man was armed or not. Now this was before the school had cameras or could afford proper security, so the school was wide open to something like this happening. The staff had done a sweep of all the hallways and classrooms and couldn't find him, so the dean instructed the teachers to resume teaching but to keep all the doors locked and to not let any students leave for any reasons. The most disturbing part, however, is that one of the janitors working the night shift found the man sleeping in one of the storage closets near the back end of the school, and according to rumors that were spread by my peers, sticking out of his pocket was a .44 Magnum. The janitor must have done something stupid to wake him up, for example, leaving the closet door open, because by the time a police officer could arrive on the scene, the man was gone. My entire class, as far as I know, to this day, has no idea if this man was ever found, but I like to think that right now, he's being given the proper help that he needs.
Huh. So, I gotta say, I've never been in a scenario quite like that. A little bit of a more real note here. My friend Andrew, if you're watching, bud, shout out to you. Was at Virginia Tech when the Virginia Tech massacre happened. Thankfully, he wasn't at. Thankfully, he didn't have a class in either of the buildings that were shot up that day. But God, it was like when I saw that on TV, it was heart-wrenching because I didn't know if Andrew was okay or not. I actually had his cell phone number and he didn't pick up, and I was just like, oh God, oh God, oh God. But turns out he'd actually left his cell phone in his locker on silent because he wasn't allowed to take it into class.
Sure.
So, hey, there you go, I guess. But you see, scenarios like that are pretty intense. You know, they can they can really get you if you're not prepared. Nowadays people are more afraid of school shootings now than they are like natural disasters happening, which, I mean, you look at the history, you look at Sandy Hook, you look at the ones that happened here more recently, was it not Kirkland, was it, I forget the names of the ones in Florida, and also the nightclub shooting that happened, and a lot of this, a lot of people want to, stretch the, if guns weren't the factor, then these wouldn't have happened. And honestly, I find that point moot because you have to blame the person, not the object, because it was that person's choice to do that. I mean, whether, they were mentally in the right state or mentally, unstable, I mean, it was their choice. I mean, and you could say society's to blame and all this and all that, and that's a debate for another day, but honestly, to me, there's a reason why we had why when I went to high school we had a resource officer, and it was because Columbine sent a chill down America's spine, because it wasn't somebody breaking in, it was fellow students who did the. And actually, have you seen that one photo? It was like a few months beforehand. It was like a massive class photo. Like they got everyone in the gymnasium for a class photo, and everyone in the class photo was doing like a hey or just like just like a typical just like sitting there and posing. The two guys from Columbine were up in the right-hand corner, and you know what they were doing? They were doing this.
Oh dear.
And that was a few months before. It was like a precursor to the whole thing. And seeing that picture just like, whew, it just made my heart sink, because a few months later those two would commit an act that shook social America to its core, and to this day people still talk about it. I mean, it's been almost 20 years now, and that's a scary thought. But and as much as I want to end on a hopeful note, I mean, seeing stuff like this and remembering, the state that America's in with a lot of paranoia and fear of their own people and everything. I'll just say this: always look for the good in people, and always try and be like. Just be good. Just be a decent person in life, because you never know what's going to happen. You never do, and that's something that I always like try to make a huge deal about, is that anything can happen at any time. And I guess without further ado, that's going to do it. And if you want to watch the original video or other horror stories animated by Llama Arts. The link to this link is in the description down below. If you want to see more Mr. Nightmare, feel free to check him out as well. Very, very creepy stories and everything. And if he wants to do more of these, let us know. And until next time, signing off, I'm Nate.
Micah.
And we'll see you later, everyone. Peace out.